A major theme of this week has been the importance of collaboration in this effort. This challenge cannot be solved by any one organization or at any one forum. Rather, it is a collective effort, a bucket brigade or relay race, in which we hand off the baton to the next runner. So as we close today, we would like to take a moment to hear from 3 representatives of organizations charting future initiatives. May I ask Tatyana Teplova of the OECD, Joe Powell of the Open Government Partnership, and David Stephen of the Pathfinders for Peaceful, Just, and Inclusive Societies join me at the podium and share with us their thoughts about where the Justice for All movement goes from here and how we can all be involved.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I actually would like to take this opportunity to thank the World Justice Project for the fantastic 4 days of stimulating and exciting exchange on making justice a reality for all. And for us at the OECD, we've been working on the issues of access to justice increasingly in the past years, also through our global roundtables on access to justice, which serve as platform to bring together OECD member states and partner countries to discuss strategies and tools to enable equal and people-centered justice for inclusive growth and sustainable development. And last year, in 2018, during the Riga Global Roundtable, high-level participants and ministers called for a concerted action by adopting what we call a Riga statement on investing in access to justice for all. And that statement in particular recognized the importance of investing in legal empowerment initiatives and in different justice initiatives, and stressing the importance of collaboration between government, civil societies at national and local levels, as well as many other stakeholders. More recently, this year, during our roundtable in Lisbon, high-level participants looked at the progress that has been made over the past year, looked at the different strategies and initiatives that have been adopted, as well as discussed the strategies in moving forward. And some of the key strategies which I would like to highlight included creating a new forward-looking and compelling vision for access to justice and fostering innovative justice approaches, investing in data and evidence to measure and monitor progress, using digital technologies for delivering justice, focusing on vulnerable and marginalized populations, closing gender gaps in accessing justice, in particular for victims of violence, investing in access to justice, including through innovative financing and refinancing strategies, as well as strengthening international cooperation. And I was so happy to hear that many of these points were picked up in different discussions throughout this forum. And the idea for the results of the OECD Roundtable to join the commitment process that we're observing here at the World Justice Forum, and to support and feed the discussions during the high-level political forum this summer, where the OECD will also be launching a global hub for the implementation of SDGs together with many of our partners. And looking into the future, our future roundtables at the end of this year and in the years to come will be harnessing the value of global dialogue to understand what works, but also from a robust evidence-based perspective. So how do we know what works? In developing tools and frameworks for inclusive justice, including at the policy, institutional, and service delivery levels, as developing specific tools to support countries in actually delivering people-centered justice for communities. Working with partners on continuing strengthening the business case, because we've heard many times that yes, justice is important, but really, is it so well accepted? Is this case so well accepted outside of the justice community? So how can we strengthen the case and show the relevance for other policy sectors? And working again with many partners on advancing the global measurement agenda for people-centered justice, both at the global level, but then also at the country-specific levels. So with this, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in the World Justice Project, but then also so many others of you in this room for the fantastic collaboration, and we look forward to working on this journey together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Just to briefly highlight how the OGP, the Open Government Partnership, could support some of the next steps for this community. For those of you that don't know OGP, it was founded in 2011 by 8 heads of state and 9 civil society leaders, and has grown now to 79 national members and an increasing cohort of local government members. And the exciting news is that while in the early days, OGP was perceived as being a place primarily for access to information and open data reform, in recent years we've seen a real growing momentum around access to justice and open justice. In 2018, we had 28 new commitments from OGP members on issues like expanding the quality and quantity of legal aid in Indonesia, opening up data around the Ministry of Justice and the judiciary in Argentina. And we had a great session earlier today to explore how we can take this to more countries. So very concretely, our offer or our hope for partnership with all of you is if you're in an OGP country, 49 of our members this year have to make new OGP commitments in action plans. So these are taking commitments from paper and from global fora, translating them into national implementation plans and making it real. So we really see OGP's role as helping to link the global to the national and giving civil society a space to work with reformers in government to come up with those concrete justice reforms that really make a difference to citizens. At the global level, in 4 weeks' time, we have our global summit in Ottawa. I know some of you will be there. For those of you that didn't know that, I realize it's quite late notice, but there will be a whole track on justice hosted by Justice Canada. We'll be convening justice ministers who are present, and really our objective as an Argentinian colleague who are our next co-chair of OGP said earlier, is we want to form a coalition. What's the coalition of government, civil society, multilateral partners that can use OGP as a platform to advance access to justice at the national level, the local level, and at the global level. So we believe open government can be a strategic tool to help advance access to justice. And of course, without access to justice, there'll never be open government. So look forward to partnering with all of you, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks so much to the World Justice Project for this fantastic forum. At the Pathfinders for Peaceful, Just, Inclusive Societies, we've been a partner in developing this forum, and it's just been extraordinary to see it coming together. On the first day, we had the launch of the Task Force on Justice report. I'm still gripping warmly the copy that I've been carrying around all week, and that really set out for us a vision of where this needs to go next. I think what we've heard this week is really, I think, 3 shifts. One, the shift from justice for the few to justice for all. The analogy I use is looking at education systems 100 years ago, where the assumption was that only a privileged minority would go to school. And gradually we've seen the shift towards the expectation and increasing the reality that all children will be educated to a reasonable standard. We need something similar in justice. The data that we presented in this report with the assistance of World Justice Project and many partners indicates a massive justice gap, a massive gulf. So we need to have a shift in momentum and a shift in ambition. Secondly, we need to make it people-centered. I mean, this has just come up again and again, but the need to put the needs of people at the center of justice systems, so not to think about institutions and then try and cram people's needs into them, but to start with an understanding of needs and really design better justice journeys to resolve justice problems, the 1.5 billion people that have unresolved justice problems, but also to get serious about justice as prevention so we don't see so many problems occurring in the first place. And then to use the justice system to create opportunities for people to participate fully in their economies and societies. And then finally, we need to put justice at the heart of sustainable development. We cannot continue to see justice as a narrow sector set off on the side. We really need to show it as a thread that runs through all of the aspirations of the 2030 Agenda for people, prosperity, and for planet. So three big shifts, and we now need to set about making that change. The first step, I think, and we've heard this from previous speakers, is to get serious about solutions. We have six major problems identified in the task force report: violence and crime, housing and land, family, work, money and debt, and public services. How can we marshal the evidence of what works around each of those problems and then articulate it to policymakers, not just to justice leaders, but to finance ministers, to planners, to presidents, planning ministries, to presidents, to prime ministers, so they can understand what needs to happen to move towards justice for all. Secondly, we need to build on these commitments that we've heard announced on the stage here today, on the ones that will be announced at the OGP summit in Ottawa. We expect that the Secretary General and the President of the General Assembly will soon write to countries and ask them to come to the SDG summit in September with accelerator commitments for all 17 SDGs. This is the first SDG summit, the first of the 4 yearly check-ins on the SDGs. It's like the Olympics of the Sustainable Development Agenda. And leaders are asked to come and mobilize further actions to accelerate implementation. So to be focused on actions, to demonstrate an acceleration in ambition, and to do that as part of a bigger mobilization. It's going to be a very, very crowded summit, and there's a climate summit the day before. We're going to have to work together very hard and in a very disciplined way to gather a set of justice commitments that's strong enough and powerful enough to cut through the noise and really indicate that justice is on the move. We have in July the High-Level Political Forum, which is a great stepping stone on that road, and we really need to come together strongly as partners around that. We then need to get serious about strategies. This shift from justice for the few to justice for all cannot happen without some serious strategic thinking at national and local levels, and there's not currently enough space for that to happen. The kind of strategic thinking that can bring together people from across sectors, from within government, from outside government, and really start to plan the change. And then we need to get serious about financing. In the report, we present some research from ODI that for the first time costs out what access to just the most basic justice services will cost. And in low-income countries, it's $20 per capita, more in middle-income and high-income countries. The evidence suggests that's not currently affordable. So we're going to need to bring more money into justice. We're going to need to redirect existing resources from ineffective areas to what works. And we're going to need to mobilize funders into some kind of collaborative so that we get a blend of finance coming from domestic resources, from international resources, from the private sector, from philanthropy, etc. We've seen this happen in education. We've seen this happen in health. We now need to do it for justice. And finally, we need to continue to build this momentum behind a movement for justice for all. I think it's time to bring, we've had the partners that are co-producing this forum, the justice partners that have come together behind the task force. Let's bind them together into an informal alliance of partners that's going to work with common purpose to build justice for all. We have growing leadership from governments. In the task force, we had Argentina, Netherlands, and Sierra Leone at ministerial level chairing the task force. We've had, on the Justice for Women ministerial group, we've had Guinea, Canada, Gambia. Countries represented here, including Indonesia, are showing strong leadership. So let's get a group of national government leaders together so that we have some real political championing for justice. We also need greater leadership from the international system. We had Kristalina Georgieva at the number 2 at the World Bank at the Justice 2030 event at the General Assembly in September last year. Sandia Koro, the Chief Counsellor, has been very engaged in the justice work. The Director General of IDLO, the Executive Director of UN Women, all standing up and talking about justice. But let's look for the leaders of every international organization. Let's look for the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, really to start talking about justice in a systematic way. We need high-level advocacy from outside the official system. It is a great, great step forward that the elders have now committed to a four-year program on justice. That gives us the leadership of Hina Jelani, of Mary Robinson, of the others from the elders, to really talk about justice, to write to presidents and prime ministers, to have private conversations with ministers. But we need more champions like that. And perhaps most importantly of all, we need to harness the grassroots energy. We have the Justice for All campaign, which is bringing together grassroots justice actors. We have growing interest from the big campaigning organizations like Avaz, the One Campaign, Global Alliance, but we need them all, not Global Alliance, Global Citizen. We need them all to come together so that we can really see some campaigning energy for justice. In 2020, we enter the last decade of the 2030 agenda. We're beginning to hear it talked about as a decade of delivery. What we do in 2019 is going to provide the foundations for that decade of delivery in 2020. We have to do it together, and we have to start doing it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatyana, Joe, and David, for your leadership and for the leadership of your organizations. We thank you and our other partners who make our work possible and who make our aspiration for justice for all a reality. We look forward to the collaborations that we've enjoyed with you going forward in the future, as well as with our other partners.